to the Raise Your Energy podcast. My name is Linda Lange and I'm your host and energy expert. In today's episode, I'm going to talk to you about negative self-talk and how harmful it can be for us. I'm going to give you 2 tips on how you can stop it and ditch it right now. And then I'm going to share with you as well why it is so important to get it under control. So let's get started. So how do you feel about your inner voice today? Are you maybe very good friends at the moment? Or do you think that your inner voice is kind of your biggest critique? Most of us have fallen into the habit of being more critical to ourselves than it is good for us. One of the reasons is that we really always strive for something new. We want to become better. We want to achieve more, which is completely natural, and that's how it should be. But we start using our inner voice to drive this growth. And what can happen is that quickly it can become harsh. The inner voice can be demanding. It can be judgmental. It's like we are beating ourselves up inside of us, or we're telling ourselves off for not achieving it quick enough or good enough or become good enough. And this is where it gets, really unhelpful and actually dangerous. Our self-talk can be anything we want it to be if we have awareness and the control over it. That's really the important part. Because as humans, we're prone to negatively self-talk. We might even say things like, I can't do anything right, or I'm a complete failure. And that is crazy, and that's why it's so important to be mindful and aware of what our inner voice is doing. An easy way to do that is to check throughout the day. Become aware of it if you can and interrupt these thoughts and really check them for what they are. And one of the easy checks, one of the tests that you can do is to ask yourself when you catch yourself, would I talk like that to my best friend? Would I say these words that I just had in my mind, inside of myself, would I say these words to my best friend? And if the answer is no, then you shouldn't say these to yourself either. Quite often we speak much harsher, more critical and destructive inside of ourselves, in our mind. And we would never say some of these things to any person in the world. Does that resonate with you? When I started working on my inner voice, what I wanted to overcome is what I call the thought spirals. It's these ongoing thoughts about one particular topic that are kind of like a never-ending loop, and they take an immense amount of energy and time of my day. And what I would do in these thought spirals, it's either about events in the past, and I would look at something that just happened or maybe even a while back and dissect it. I would ruminate on it. If I did the right thing, if I could have done it better, or I would question myself why I even did it. So I would ruminate and think a lot about something that is in the past that I cannot even change anymore. So what a waste, right? Or it would be things about the future. So worrying about the future, thinking about a meeting coming up, a presentation, a conversation I have to have. And I would think about how will it go? How will it end? Will it be okay? Or will it be a disaster? And our mind, again, because it always goes more to the negative, automatically comes up with the worst case scenarios, right? And then all of these thought spirals that I would catch myself being in bring up as well these negative emotions that come with it. And therefore they made me just feel worse, on top of taking a lot of my energy and peace, so to say. So what I did is mainly two things to stop these thought spirals. I would use awareness to stop them and get aware of them when they happen, when they were out of control, so to say. And then the other thing was using meditation to calm my mind down, to quieten my mind. So let's talk about these two things in a little bit more detail. So the first one is the awareness of your thoughts. And being aware or awareness means putting attention somewhere. That's really all it is. So what you do is you just put a bit more attention on your thoughts and on your inner voice than we would normally do. When I was still in that position, I would not put much attention on my thoughts or on these thought spirals. I would let my mind just do whatever it wanted to. It was kind of out of control, and it would just do all of that by itself. And yes, I was upset about it, and but I was so stuck in it in that moment, right? When you have these thought spirals, you're so engrossed and so busy with having these thoughts and these emotions that you can't catch yourself very easily. So it's kind of a practice. You need to practice putting attention on it and then getting yourself out of it. So at the beginning, you want to remind yourself. It's kind of like a practice. At the beginning, you have to be more mindful of what you're doing. You have to learn it first, right? So you want to remind yourself, and you can use different things to remind yourself of stopping and putting your attention on your thoughts or the thoughts that you just had. You could set yourself reminders in your calendar. You could even take your phone and put like pop-up reminders coming up. You could even take a partner, maybe somebody in your family or a friend, and you remind each other during the day to check in with the thoughts that you are having. So all kinds of different things that you can do, and you will see that over some time it will get easier. You get more natural at it. And what happens is when you catch yourself with some thoughts that are just not beneficial and loving to you, you want to stop them. And how you do that is by either thinking about something else, preferably positive. You can distract yourself. Just, if you can, get up and do something else. Just do something completely different that will distract you and not be, so you can't even go back to the thoughts that you just had. You can create as well kind of a mantra, a kind of a sentence that you tell yourself every time you want to step out of these thoughts, these inner voice that is hurting you at this moment in time. You can create something that is meaningful to you, and when you catch yourself, you can just say the sentence, and it's kind of a disruptor, and it's disrupting that thought process, and then afterwards you again move on with your work or your day or whatever you're doing. So there are different techniques, but you want to disrupt it and you want it to stop. And like I said, with time, it will get easier and easier. It will come more naturally to you, and it will happen more automatically, which is really what you want. You want your subconscious and even your conscious mind to suddenly very easily realize when you have an inner voice and a self-talk that is not very nice to you. And that's what you do when you practice it, okay? And then I said the other thing that I did was to calm my mind. And I think I can speak for a lot of people that we have a lot of things going on. We have a very busy mind. We have a lot of information coming onto us every day. There has never been so much information sources in our lives ever before. So our mind can be very active even without it, but with all of this information, all of these different topics in your life and focuses, your mind goes probably even more crazy. Maybe not, maybe yes. That was for sure the case for me. I had a very active mind that I had no control over. So I was looking to quieten my mind and calm it. And meditation is a very, very good practice for that. When you are in meditation, one of the main things is that you want to quieten your mind and you want to get into a state where you don't have thoughts. Now, being able to have no thoughts for a long period of time is hardly impossible. There are maybe a few people, maybe some monks and really great meditation gurus who can actually do it for like half an hour or an hour. That is really long. So if you do already meditate or you want to meditate, having thoughts during the meditation is part of the meditation. So don't beat yourself up if it happens and your mind, especially at the beginning when you start practicing meditation, it feels like even more noisy and you are angry somehow because you want to meditate, you want to achieve that no thought state. So it feels that the thoughts are even louder. It's part of the meditation. So like I said, don't beat yourself up. The practice in meditation is that a thought comes, you realize that you are thinking, but you actually want to meditate. So you just let that thought go. You let it fly away, flow away, whatever you want to picture it. And you go back to the state of not having thoughts. That's the meditation practice. Like I said, it's very difficult. Our mind and our brain actually creates a thought every few seconds. So imagine being for minutes without a thought is that needs a lot of practice. But what it does is that this practice that you do in the meditation, and the more you do it, the better you get at it. It's not just that during the meditation, your mind gets calmer. It's as well outside of the meditation. I can just speak for that. I think you don't realize until a bit later when you suddenly look back and actually focus on that you realize that your mind has become so much quieter as well just during the day when you go about your life. If I compare my mind, my inner voice with what it was about 1.5 years ago to what it is now, it's unbelievably different. I have hardly any thought spirals anymore, mostly gone. Maybe consciously I'm maybe aware 2 or 3 times per week, but for sure not daily and for sure not all day long like it was maybe before. And my mind is much quieter. It does not have any more this useless thoughts, this chatter going on all the time in my mind. And my inner voice has become as well much nicer, a lot nicer to myself. For sure, I still have a long way to go. There is still so much more improvement that I can reach, but I am already really happy where my mind, where my inner voice is now than to what it was 1.5 years ago. A huge difference. So these 2 tips, really great to apply to calm your mind, to be able to check your mind and your inner voice, and to overcome and change that self-talk from a negative state to a positive state. So the first thing was to become more aware, so put attention on your thoughts and put some distance in between yourself and your thoughts and check them for what they actually are, and if they are not helpful, then change them. And the second practice is meditation, to calm your mind, quieten down that chatter. And now that I gave you these 2 tips, I want to share with you as well why I know it is so important to quieten your mind and to change the self-talk from a negative to a positive and healthy talk. And the reason is that this is very much linked to self-love and self-discovery. Training your mind and your inner voice is directly linked to both of them. to be able to love yourself more and to be able to discover more of who you truly are. We are never able to fully love, accept, and respect ourselves if we keep having that negative self-talk and that harmful inner voice. It is just not possible to have both. If we keep letting our inner voice bring us down, criticize ourselves constantly, and beat ourselves up, then it's just not possible to get to a state where you truly love yourself for who you are. Does that make sense? I hope so. I hope it makes sense. I talked in last week's episode about how much power our thoughts and our emotions, our feelings have in the manifestation process. And your inner voice is part of that, obviously, because they are thoughts, right? Your inner voice are thoughts. If we don't check them and make sure they are positive and beneficial for us, then it can even lead to something more significant like depression and anxiety. And of course, we don't want to end up there. So if you are truly interested to move more towards self-love and love yourself more and enjoy your life, then this is something that you want to tackle, your negative self-talk. Really, really, really important. I can't say enough reallys. And having a good training of calming your mind and pausing you from this constantly having this chatter and the thoughts going on in your mind gives your subconscious mind the possibility to bring you new ideas, new thoughts, and new perspectives. I discovered this, that since my mind is much calmer as well during the day, that I have moments of silence where I get new ideas, I get new ways of looking at things, I get new inspiration, or I get a new perspective. It's kind of a message that is coming up. And I truly believe that I'm so much better now in getting these new ideas, these messages, that because of my quiet mind, before I would never get so many. My mind was just so busy that my subconscious mind had no chance to actually open the doors and let some wisdom coming out of it that really drives my growth and gives me new ideas and gives me as well more clarity about who I truly am. I describe it as being more connected to my inner self, to my higher self, to this universal energy that we have inside of us. All of us have that inside of us. And that energy that we are connected with, that inner self, it wants us to feel good all the time. It wants us to achieve everything we strive for in our lives. And it wants us to enjoy our lives to the fullest. So being able to be calmer and sit in silence just for a few seconds or a few minutes or even longer gives this energy and that higher self, that subconscious mind, the ability to open up and sending you messages, giving you new ideas, thinking of new ways of maybe solving a problem that have never would have come to your mind otherwise. We have so much wisdom inside of us, but that analytical mind that is babbling on inside of us all the time just doesn't let it come through. So I find this really, really important to love ourselves, of course, but as well to discover ourselves more, to really find out what we are really meant for, what our purpose is, what really our passion is. And I believe that these messages come more from a deeper well, and I free up that well when I sit in silence. Silence isn't empty. It's full of answers. So these messages that you can start to receive as well if you sit more in silence will bring you even closer to loving yourself, because it wants everything good for you. It wants you to become your best self, and that is a self that you can love, right? That is what I want for all of you. I want you to love yourself more and more, and that you realize how you can express yourself in this world to the benefits of yourself, but as well to the world. How does that sound? Pretty good, right? Okay, my lovelies, thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I hope I sparked some inspiration of you, and I hope you will just get a little bit more aware of your negative self-talk and catch it and stop it. But it was a pleasure being here with you today, and I hope you liked it. Let me know in a comment if you liked that episode, and make sure that you subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening, so you catch as well the next episode again. So thank you again, and with that, I love you and leave you. Talk soon, and bye bye.